Welcome to the fabulous Friday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. I'm glad you're able to spend some time with us today. We made it. We're at the end of the work week. It's been a long week, hasn't it? It's been one of those long weeks. I think the weather has a lot to do with it. It's been such a dark, there's a couple days of sunshine, but it's just so dark and gloomy, and I get it. And I know that we're still trying to catch up for all the rain that we missed, but it looks like I'm looking out the window here out over Yonge and Almond Street, and there looks like one of those black clouds that is floating over. The drive in this morning was interesting. It was a little bit bright when I left Clayton Park, and then I got towards the Dunbrack overpass, and it was pouring rain, and then got over towards down the hill where the exit is to Joe Howe, and it was again clear. Well, not clear, but it was brighter. So it's one of those Nova Scotia moments, isn't it? Showers and flurries in the forecast today. Yeah, I said the F word. We could see some flurries, but if you've been following any of the aftermath of that storm that Ontario got, I think that we'll be okay with flurries, right? Some of them are digging out 2 feet of snow. Can you imagine? In November, 2 feet of snow. It's going to be cool, too. We're going to see temperatures that dip down. Yesterday was wild, wasn't it? When I left for work yesterday morning, it was 9 degrees. It was 12 for part of the day yesterday, and then it was down to 6 degrees on the drive home. I hung around for a few extra hours yesterday to help out our friends in the newsroom and read a couple of newscasts and got into the afternoon commute. And it was still warm, but holy smokes, traffic both ways in one day. I don't know how we all do it. Anyway, it's bizarre. I know it's something I rail about a lot. Thanks to Vanessa Vananez on the other side of the glass. And by the way, I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn here, but Vanessa is going to read some newscasts this afternoon, and she is fantastic at it. So make sure that you stick around after 3 today. You can catch Vanessa on the air reading the news with Mark Hodgins. So I look forward to listening to that. Back to the weather for a moment. There's something lurking out there, right? Some people are already starting to talk about this storm that is working its way into our region for the first half of next week. Don't really know what it's going to bring. Some suggesting we could see our first shovelable, is that a word? Shovelable snowfall of the year. Some say maybe not. Some say, well, a bit early. So we're going to bring Aalders Aalders in, our weather specialist, into hour number 3, and he's going to give us the very latest on this system that's probably going to affect our weather at least for the first half of the work week after the weekend. Now, I make all kinds of predictions here on this program. Vanessa will tell you that. And those that keep track will tell you that, for the most part, I'm wrong more than I'm right. It's true, right? I think it's because a lot of times I'll predict the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to win a hockey game. And that just doesn't happen much anymore. But anyway, boy, am I happy to have been right yesterday when I said that our team black was going to win at the curling trials down there at Scotiabank Centre. And lo and behold, they did. What a huge victory, right? All of that blue noser spirit came through. Job not done, though, yet, folks. Christina, Jill, Jen, Carly, and Marley, you need all of our help as they get ready to take on Team Rachel Holman. If you've been following curling, you know that Rachel Holman is probably, and I don't think I'm speaking out of class, is probably the best team on the planet. That being said, and I said it yesterday, that the Canadian Olympic Trials has a history of underdogs. I mean, Brad Gushu, we saw it 20 years ago. And watching some of the coverage yesterday, the curling trials has a history of rewarding hometown teams. 4 years ago, Rachel Holman won in Ottawa. That's where she's from. And the list goes on and on and on. There have been several instances where a team from the home province that the trials are played in have been successful at this tournament, this Bonspiel, as we call them. So I want you to put all that positive thinking back on and sending all those warm and positive thoughts down to Scotiabank Centre. The championship this year is a best of 3. This is a bit of a new thing for me. Game 1 goes this afternoon at 1 o'clock. Let's go, Team Black. We're all pulling for you. Premier Houston was there yesterday. Got his picture taken with Team Black when they won over Team Einerson. And he also said yesterday that he wasn't very happy with the way that Nova Scotia Power responded to the cyber attack. Houston saying that it felt like the utility was, well, kind of just shrugging its shoulders. And he's now considering a fine. Now, we talked about this on the open hour yesterday, and I think very rightly a couple of you reached out and said that a fine just ends up coming out of the ratepayers' pockets anyway. And I think I agree. I think one of the suggestions that we got yesterday might be, and I don't know, I don't think the Premier has the power to do it, but we should have performance markers, these buzzwords that people that work in the corporate world use, like KPI, the key performance indicators and those kind of things. I know that Nova Scotia Power has a 9% guaranteed return, right? Wouldn't it be something if we were able to tie that to performance? Because that would certainly hit the company where it hurts, rather than just issuing a fine, which they'll write off. And if it's $1 million to Nova Scotia Power, it's really not what it would mean for $1 million to you and I. But wouldn't that be something? If that return that was negotiated as part of this had a performance or a benchmark that had to be hit, that would leave a mark, I think. And I think that would send a message. I don't even know if it's possible, but it would be something. Got a couple of emails from you yesterday, and I want to send our thanks to Clinton Wilkins and his team for coming in here and doing that live edition of Mortgage 101 yesterday. It was a lot of fun. Thanks to all of those of you that watched the live stream yesterday. And you're correct that I do have the perfect face for radio. So it was an interesting experience. We haven't really done that before, to that scale anyway, with having cameras in here. I know that Vanessa doesn't want to have cameras in her studio, and it's a bit disconcerting having them in here, really, because all these the irises are moving and so on. It was wild, but anyway, it was a lot of fun. And if you haven't seen it, I think it's still available at Clinton's Facebook page. So if you go to Clinton Wilkins Mortgage Team Facebook page, you can watch it. And yes, I do thank you for the compliments that you forwarded to me. On the national stage, did you follow any of this stuff yesterday? Mark Carney in Alberta. Didn't Danielle Smith look like she was almost giddy when she was signing that memorandum of understanding? The change in her mood to deal with the federal government over the last 9 months, 10 months has been quite remarkable. She had gone as she was probably the strongest opponent of the Trudeau Liberal government that at least at the provincial level, and then Mark Carney, she was lukewarm too. But yesterday it was like they had when he walked in, the Prime Minister walked in, there's a Christmas tree there, right? So it must have felt like Christmas for her when they signed that memorandum of understanding. Still a lot of stuff I think that needs to be kind of fleshed out of what this pipeline announcement means. The Conservatives obviously and Pierre Poilievre absolutely hated it, saying that that the federal government's still standing in the way, and if it was him and he was government, they would announce it and it'd be done. I don't think that's the right approach. I think with the number of jurisdictions and the number of moving parts with this pipeline, I think that consultation's probably a wise thing, right? But yeah, Danielle Smith was a different person yesterday, smiling and laughing and everything else, because I guess she got what she wanted, right? And that if you'd have told me that a Liberal government in Canada would be at this point and would be signing these kind of documents, I get it. The pipeline's not built yet, and there's still many hurdles for it to cross. But if you'd have told me that 18 months ago, I'd have said, no way. Absolutely no way. But anyway, it happened yesterday. The one question that I had, and I didn't see it raised, and it's not to say that it didn't, but I didn't see any coverage of it, is Now that this pipeline the process is started to bring Alberta bitumen from the oil sands and other places in Alberta through the province of Alberta and BC and to saltwater, to tidal water as they call it, to access the Asian market. I wonder if the Energy East deal is dead. If you watched some of the reaction yesterday to the announcement, the leaders, political leaders in Quebec, not happy at all, saying that they're going to fight this and they're going to fight on behalf of BC, and if they can do this to BC, then is Quebec next? But I wonder if there's enough political capital left in pipelines, and pipeline politics has been a thing in Canada for many years. If there's enough of that political capital left to try and make Energy East, which would see a pipeline built into St. John or into New Brunswick somewhere, a reality. Because, like it or not, pipelines, I know, are very divisive issues, but that would certainly be a boom for the maritime economy. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen with Energy East now that this Alberta pipeline has been started. I will say it's not certainly being built, but the process has been started. And finally, before we take our first break here on the program, it's Black Friday today. I was up early this morning and checking some of the things that I had perhaps earmarked for Christmas to see if there was a Black Friday sale. Now, I know that there's still other parts of Black Friday that are to come, right? Small Business Saturday, and then Cyber Monday, which is likely when I'll wait before I pull the trigger on some of these things. I'm not seeing, and this is just based on the limited amount of shopping that I did this morning, I didn't see anything that was new or that was one of those OMG moments. I think that Black Friday, I'm just looking at a Retail Council of Canada study that's on the TV right now saying that 85% of respondents are waiting to see what the sales are. So it'll be interesting, right? Wouldn't it be something if Black Friday, and we were talking about Peggy's Cove being a victim of its own success, right? Wouldn't it be something if Black Friday has now become a victim of its own success? Because you watch the ads, you listen to the ads on the radio station, you see them in the newspapers, you see them in the billboards, that the Black Friday sales start at the beginning of November, if not earlier. And they're really not driving people to this one day anymore. And we still, because we remember what Black Friday used to be like, we're still kind of, at least I am, was still waiting this morning first thing I did when I got up this morning was check some of the travel sites and the other retailers just to see what the Black Friday deals were. Now, I'm going to dig into it more later today, and of course I'll probably wait, as I said, till Cyber Monday to see if we get anything else. But it's very interesting, and I'm trying to, and this is just me, I'm not telling you how to shop, but it's just me, I'm trying to buy Canadian, buy local this time around, right? Because I think it's important to support the Canadian economy. Not always possible, but I think it's important. It's interesting to see how Black Friday works. We know that we've talked to a few people on the program here about the importance of this week and the Christmas season to that of small and medium-sized business. But so far, for me at least, in my limited movings around on the interwebs, it has been a bit of a disappointing Black Friday thus far. Doesn't mean that it is going to continue to be, but we'll keep an eye on it, and I will let you know on Monday if we found anything. And I know that many of you are perhaps listening to us right now and are looking at those sales to see if there's anything that's worth you buying. We're going to take our first break here on the Fabulous Friday edition. When we come back, Halifax now told to streamline evaluation of Dalhousie University's historic properties. Historic properties have become a bit of a discussion topic as of late. We've seen a number of older buildings that have been slated for demolition. There's been a push to save some of these other buildings to try and preserve some of our architectural heritage here in HRM. A conversation with the executive director of Heritage Trust in Nova Scotia, Emma Lang when we return. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. Happy Friday. We're back after the break. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand, and I don't think it's any secret that we live in one of, if not the oldest city, one of the oldest cities in the country, and we still have a lot of properties here that have some historical value to them, based on their architecture, based on the role that they played in the early days and moving forward, and protecting those buildings has come into the spotlight as of late as we start to see more and more development happening, particularly on the peninsula of Halifax. And I'm very pleased to welcome into the show today to tell us a little bit more about these kind of buildings, the Executive Director of the Heritage Trust of Nova Scotia, and that's Emma Lang. Emma, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure to have you on. And Emma, I don't think I'm alone in thinking that with all of the construction going on, and the developments that are going up, I'm just looking out my window at all of these cranes, that some of the older buildings, some of the heritage buildings, some of the buildings that are yet to be designated could be in jeopardy here as we continue to see this building boom.
Absolutely. It's a tricky balance, especially in our city.
Now, and that was my next question, Emma, is there a balance between, sorting out the housing crisis that we're in and protecting some of these buildings?
Absolutely. I think one thing that is often downplayed, and we try and highlight, is the fact that so many older structures provide housing, and so many of them can be altered and adapted, and they're to increase the amount of housing. There's some wonderful examples, actually, that Halifax is actually showing to the rest of the country, where we take single-family homes, we lift them by, if they already have a basement, we lift them by, say, 3 feet, and boom, you've got another unit below, and you're also preserving the green space, you're preserving the story of that structure. We also see lots of bigger structures that can absolutely be adapted, and we know that when we're talking about a housing crisis, we're also talking about an affordability crisis. And statistically, not just in Nova Scotia, but nationally, the most affordable structures are the ones we've already got. So when we're tearing down buildings, we're often disproportionately tearing down affordable housing, which is making the situation much worse. And there's so many exciting opportunities that our city allows for taking heritage structures and turning them, adding extra units or building units but next to them, or adapting structures that, say, were formerly churches and adding apartments inside them, or into where church halls were, or adapting the church halls themselves. So from not just our standpoint, but when we look at nationally, if we look across the region, built heritage is a key part of solving this problem. And tearing down buildings, as many of us know from our own neighborhoods, for years it often just leaves a hole in the ground. So we've actually lost a huge number of units, which is making the problem worse. There's a construction site in my neighborhood that's been going on for at least 4 years. And there used to be housing there. So we see keeping these structures and then finding other ways. Built heritage, we have a dense city. Our heritage structures, if you think about Barrington Street, that's density to begin with. So we can add to our density. We can keep a dense city. We can do all of those goals. The other thing to think about is these structures are a key part of thinking about how we're going to protect the environment. They are better for the environment. They're better in terms of housing that already exists, which is what we need. We need places where people can lay their heads tonight, not in 4 years, and they add an economic value to our community. People spend more time in neighborhoods where there are older structures. I often say kind of jokingly, no one goes to Bayers Lake to walk around. It's great. It's important, a great place to go shopping, but no one is wandering around there. No one is accidentally going into a store they didn't plan to, the same way they might in a heritage district. People don't walk their dogs in Bayers Lake. They do walk their dogs in places where there's a density of heritage structures. So they really provide so many different types of value to our community.
Emma, the adaptation of these buildings obviously costs money, and we know that that's not getting cheaper every day, and old houses in general are in need of constant maintenance, I will say.
I think any building is in need of constant maintenance. I mean, we look at there's a new build that I see where it's less than 5 years old and they're already having to replace some of the siding. I don't see that with the older buildings. So, I mean, saying buildings need maintenance is sort of saying, the sky is blue and there's water in the harbor. So I think that is often overblown. Yeah, sure, they require maintenance, but the nice thing about it is often that maintenance is locally available materials. We're looking at buildings that are made with wood. We have a lumber industry. We want to support them. We have sawmills. We can use that local industry. So the impact locally is so amazing. And, you have a wooden house in Halifax that needs some new clapboards. Hopefully you can get that, and that's supporting our rural communities as well.
Emma, some tell me that there are some beautiful heritage buildings out there, and some of the examples that you've told me are very visible, but there are other buildings that have been designated or could be designated that are in bigger states of disrepair. What's your response to that?
I think, there's always buildings in disrepair. There's new buildings in disrepair. There's old buildings in disrepair. When we look at the economic benefit that comes from repairing older buildings, it's huge. When we look at the value that comes from it from an environmental standpoint, it's huge. One of the biggest, if not the biggest, contributors to landfills is actually construction materials that often comes from demolition. So a lot of us were taught as kids, reduce, reuse, recycle, and we think about in terms of, soda cans and paper. But when we think about older structures, the same can be true. So, when we're preserving a structure, and we're repairing it and we're putting that labor in, that's going to have a huge environmental impact. That's going to help on our issues around climate change. So, throwing stuff in the trash doesn't solve anything. When you tear down a building also, it's gone forever. So these buildings, there's also a cultural value. We don't know what we don't know about their stories. We don't know what we don't know about their history. We don't know what we don't know about their construction techniques. So, repairing a building, like I said, all buildings need repairs. When we look at the life cycle of older buildings, they last much longer. If you take one example, I'll give you one component. Wooden windows. Wooden windows are designed to be repaired. So a wooden window can last 250 years if you do regular maintenance on it. Vinyl window, its lifespan is about 20 years. 20 years, the whole thing is shot. They're not designed to be repaired, and they have to go in the trash. So in terms of the cost, if you have to replace your window, fully replace it every 20 years, that over the life cycle of a building that's going to last for 50 or 100 years, it's going to be higher than a little bit of maintenance you put into your wooden windows, every few years. So I think the math, anyone can make math do what you want math to do, but I think heritage buildings, in terms of being affordable, in the long run, it really pays off. They also, they do better in lots of different types of disasters. They do better in lots of different types of situations. And they are why people want to live here. They provide a community value. They make it so people want to stay in community. They make it so visitors come. We rely so heavily here on visitation from outsiders. People come because they want to see these older structures. No one comes because they want to see something that they can see anywhere else. So, we get these three major components by preserving. We get an economic bump, we get a good for the environment bump, and we create culture, and we have a culturally warm community that makes us want to spend time, that makes us want to live in these structures. And, we're solving the housing crisis because we're not tearing them down so people can continue to live in them. So we need a balance, but, keeping the heritage structures is a really good way to tick off three things that I believe everyone in Nova Scotia really cares about.
Emma, we're out of time. I appreciate yours. Have a fantastic weekend.
You too. Thanks for having me on.
That is Emma Lang, the Executive Director of Heritage Trust of Nova Scotia. Some interesting points there as we take a drive around the south end of Halifax, perhaps, and see old houses that are either fenced off or are in the process of being torn down or have been torn down to make way for yet another building. I understand the density issue, right? I understand that, if you knock 5 houses down, might have 10 apartments, 15, 20 apartments, 25 apartments in them, and we're putting in their place a building that has, 400 or 300 apartments. But not everybody's a fan of density, and people do, as I say here just about every day at the end of the show, that we're so very lucky to live where we live, and people spend lots of money to come and look at old buildings. Now, does that make it so that we should have all old buildings preserved? I think Emma's right. I think there's a balance that can be struck between building new and building more and preserving some of the things that make Halifax. Time to take a break. When we come back, lots to talk about in Ottawa this week. Holy smokes. The Prime Minister has been out west and trying to appease the Alberta government. And now, today, he is in BC. And can you imagine what it would be like to be a fly on the wall when Mark Carney and Premier Eby meet? I'd love to be there. And I bet you our next guest would as well. We're going to take a break for the news. On the other side of it, our good friend from Summa Strategies and Abacus Data, that is Tim Powers. He is here, and I'm sure he has an opinion on it, and we'll hear it after the news. All right, welcome back. Lots going on federally this week with a couple of big announcements from Mark Carney after he returned from his meetings at the G20 and brought the checkbook out for a couple of industries that have been hit hard with tariffs and the ongoing trade dispute with the United States, and then jumped in the corporate jet and headed over to Alberta and made Daniel Smith's day. It looked like yesterday anyway. To give us a little perspective, our good friend from Summa Strategies and Abacus Data, that is Tim Powers. Tim, how are you?
Oh, I just trying to keep up there, Dan. It's been, like you said, a crazy, crazy weekend. Of course, yesterday was U.S. Thanksgiving, and there was some not bad football on, so that was a nice silver lining.
Right, and some distraction.
yeah. Although I don't, I got to say, there's some delight in the Chiefs falling off, though I'm not a big Cowboys fan. I'll take that one for now. And the Lions, oh boy, Dan, they were going to be Super Bowl favorites, but they are not looking so good.
Yeah, the Packers played pretty well. Watched a lot of that game between watching all the curling that's happening here in Halifax, of course.
Yeah, can I just say something on that? Look, Colleen Jones, I'm
right.
sure you talked about Colleen. Just an incredible figure, and you and I are of an age when, she not only dominated on the curling rinks, but in Canadian media for so long. She was front and center on the national stage, and it's always amazing to me how she was excellent at both, curling and media. She was just so genuinely authentic. And real sin to see her pass at 65.
It's I said it on the air earlier this week that she was always so very generous with her time, right? When you're out doing stuff as a journalist, it's a busy time, right? You have deadlines, and you got to do everything you need to do, and I know that you're very familiar with that, Tim. But it didn't matter what was going on. If somebody wanted to come up and get an autograph or have a chat with Colleen, she'd make time for them.
Yeah, she really showed the best of Atlantic Canada in that, too. I think Heather Hiscox, who I know, who worked with her for years, obviously, and just stepped down herself, I think it said somewhere, she always put people first. She always put her region first. She could have been in Toronto and had a bigger media career and maybe gone to the U.S., but she was still great from Atlantic Canada and made a huge impression.
For sure, and she'll be sorely missed. All right, Tim, to the big announcement yesterday, all eyes were on Alberta and Mark Carney's visit there, and I said it off the top of the program today that I don't think I've ever seen Danielle Smith smile so much as she was smiling yesterday.
Well, I don't ever think I've seen a Liberal government do so much for the West. I mean, this, of course, was the government, the Pierre Trudeau's party, and you'll remember it was his national energy policy that really soured the relationship between the federal Liberals and the West and really changed their whole electoral dynamic and the resource dynamic in Canada. And Mark Carney has just thrown that on its edge and done this deal. I mean, again, to point out, there is no proponent of the pipeline yet in terms of a private sector one, but if it ever, if this allows something to come through fruition, that it could be fairly significant. It could be nothing, but boy, oh boy, for the moment, you have to rate it as a huge announcement with not just potential for Alberta and British Columbia, but for the rest of the country. We've got resource projects in Newfoundland that we'd like to see get free of some of the regulatory burdens that were shelved by Canada for Alberta yesterday. You've got wind power, you've got shale gas. I mean, all of that in Nova Scotia, nuclear in New Brunswick. So this has national implications if Carney is prepared to do deals like this with other provinces.
BC must feel, you mentioned Thanksgiving, supper, dinner, right? BC must feel like a teenager at that supper table, though, being told by their parents that this is what we're doing and it'll be good. You'll see.
Yeah, they got whacked over the head by the old John Madden turduncan and didn't get any of the treats of biting into the turduncan. If you don't know what a turduncan is, Google it, but you shouldn't eat it. It's got a lot of potential bad things in it. Anyway, yeah, but Carney, Hodgson is there, I think, today. I think you reported Carney is going to be there. Yeah. I mean, part of this is a negotiating posture, too, by Premier Eby. He obviously knows he can get something out of this. Part of this is a reality. There are rightly, and we should not dismiss it, Indigenous nations that are not going to want to have this happen. And while, yes, maybe there are some that would be open to a transaction, a lot of this work is a lot of work to be done. But I think what Carney is trying to say to all the stakeholders and to the rest of the world is, look, he's going to push as hard as he can to try and get deals and projects done. Some will fail, some will succeed, but he's going to try, and maybe there's value for the rest of the globe in seeing that message.
Stephen Guilbeault, a cabinet minister, or now an ex-cabinet minister under Mark Carney, not happy with that announcement yesterday. In fact, he packed up his toys and said he was done with cabinet.
Yeah, he really had no choice given what his long career history in the environmental movement has been. And I mean, he came on as part of Team Trudeau that was going to change dramatically how Canada's environmental policies were structured. I don't think Carney is really that broken up about it. Because there is, I think it's a reality. There's a narrative out there, and I buy it, that Carney is trying to remake the party in his own name. And, people like Guilbeault, Wilkinson, Joly, Blair, others that are associated with Justin Trudeau, he wants to see them gracefully leave so he can recruit people. Now, there's a bit of risk in all that, right? Like, Guilbeault was also the Quebec lieutenant for the Liberals. He's popular in Quebec. Right now, he's saying he's, resigning on principle, and he still supports the PM. And Carney will need to keep him saying those things to win some of those seats or hold on to those seats in Quebec. But I think, Dan, what we're going to see sometime in the new year is a super by-election day when Guilbeault, Freeland, all of these people who have signaled they're going are going to be gone. And that will be important as to what happens with the government, because it's not necessarily guaranteed they're going to win all the seats they currently hold.
With this project proposal from BC to Alberta, or from Alberta to BC, and then of course to Tidewater, starting at least the beginning phases of it starting. Does this mean, or do you think that this means that the end of Energy East, the proposal to build a pipeline from Alberta to eastern Canada, particularly to New Brunswick, to saltwater?
That's a whole other loaded one, right? Because domestically in Quebec, there's more. I think there's still over 50% opposition to that in Quebec. There's not in British Columbia. Energy East is that. Yeah, that's a. I don't know what it means. Don't know if it means it's dead. Don't know if it means it's alive. Because, again, it's all part of Carney's trying to diversify. Are the markets there? Can you have both of these pipelines working at the same time? Is there the volume for it? I think it's a fascinating question that you should keep asking, Dan.
I promise to do that very thing, Tim. I really do. Very quickly, we're almost out of time. I saw some Nanos polling yesterday. showing Mark Carney still holding a sizable lead on Pierre Poilievre in likability. This after the budget and so on and so forth. I know you live in the numbers world, Tim. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, that gap has not really changed much. Carney either holds or grows. Pierre tends to slip a little bit. I mean, look, the real challenge the Conservatives are having is yet again here yesterday, you would have thought it was, Prime Minister Pierre Poilievre announcing a pipeline being built. Now, again, be fair, one is not being built, and that's what Poilievre is saying. He says it's a paper tiger. But the Mark Carney continues to demonstrate he's more conservative than Paul Martin was. Now, if you use the Paul Martin analogy, as some are, Mr. Martin promised too much and didn't deliver, and it eventually sunk him, whether that happens to Mark Carney or not. But the challenge for Pierre Poilievre, it's really hard for him to go after Mark Carney on things that were easy to go after Justin Trudeau on, and the Conservatives are still trying to figure out how to make a biting attack on Carney that is valuable for them.
Yesterday, the response from Mr. Poilievre and the Conservative Party, it didn't win any favor with those that lean into the environment. He said that if he was the Prime Minister, he'd be getting out of the way and consultation be damned, essentially.
Well, and that's still Mark Carney. Again, go back to Elizabeth May and the budget vote last week. There was a reason guys like Guy Beauregard and some of the others in the Liberal caucus are not running away and going elsewhere, because the only game in town for environmental policy is still the Liberal Party, right? Because, as you just said, that they know the Conservatives aren't going to go there. The NDP don't exist. Mark Carney is trying to trade on that too. That could eventually change, but right now he still is the place, if anybody wants to make a difference on environmental policy, that serious political actors may try and go.
Tim, as always, a pleasure, my friend. Enjoy the football this weekend, and we'll chat next week.
All right, take care, buddy. Bye.
That is Tim Powers, our friend from Summa Strategies and Abacus Data. When we come back, we talk about the Mooseheads a lot. We talk about some of the other sporting events, like the curling that's happening down at Scotiabank Centre. But we're also getting ready to take the cap off, to unwrap the 2025-26 season of the Halifax Thunderbirds. Halifax Thunderbirds communications manager and digital host. You also see Maki on TSN. Maki Jenner will be our guest. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. Well, if you follow the Halifax Thunderbirds, I know that you're gaining an anticipation. It's the start of a new season, and of course, some big success on the floor last year. A deep playoff run for our Halifax Thunderbirds, and looking to build on that success this year. And may I say, or could I say, get to the championship and maybe raise that cup. Wouldn't that be something? Very pleased to welcome to the program to set up the season for us the Thunderbirds communications manager and digital host. That's Maki Jenner. Maki, how are you?
Hi, good morning. Good. It's great to be on the show this morning and excited to talk a little Halifax Thunderbirds lacrosse.
Absolutely. Maki, for those, and I can't imagine it's many anymore because the team has such a strong following here, but for those that don't know what we're talking about, what is the National Lacrosse League and who are the Halifax Thunderbirds?
Yeah, so the National Lacrosse League is the highest level of indoor box lacrosse, the professional league across the United States and Canada. And, you know, we've got 14 teams that compete all season long to hoist that, NLL Cup at the end of the season. And the Halifax Thunderbirds moved here 6 years ago. And so, since then we've seen a ton of growth, but it's a game full of action-packed hits, a lot of goals that are being scored, big moments. A lot of people like to think about it's like hockey, but right side up or upside down, the way you want to say it, just because of the way that it's set up on the floor. But we score a lot more goals. So it's action-packed all game long, but it's definitely exciting. And like you've said, we've seen so much growth from the community and engaging with the team. So it's been a lot of fun, and we can't wait to kick things off next week.
I got to tell you, it's as exciting as hockey. It's more goals, as you say. There's maybe a little more contact than we're used to watching hockey, but it certainly is a lot of fun. And boy, the fans certainly have a lot of fun at those games, don't they?
That's right. Yeah. And that's kind of one thing that we really pride ourselves in is that game presentation, factor of the game. And we've got a great staff here that puts fun activations and things up on the Jumbotron and, pregame stuff and all that jazz kind of put together to really make it, an exciting kind of party feel to the game. And so, a lot of people used to say that, you pay for the ticket, but you only really need to pay for the edge of your seat because, you're just constantly in the action. And it's definitely a ton of fun.
Had a big season last season. Holy smokes, right? Mm-hmm. Third overall in the division and a deep playoff run.
Yeah, that's right. And I think one of the most exciting things for us is because the playoff format in the NLL is very different than a lot of leagues. And so, you're not necessarily guaranteed a home game because that first quarterfinal matchup is actually just kind of a winner-takes-all type of game. So we were lucky enough to finish, in the top four, which allowed us to have a home game for the first time in the history of Halifax Thunderbirds lacrosse. So, that was something that's always been a goal of this team, and we were able to get past Calgary in that first round. And then, unfortunately, Saskatchewan did take us, down in the semifinals. But nonetheless, again, we got to host two playoff games last year, and we saw sold-out crowds both nights that we were able to, bring fans in. And it was so exciting to see. And I know that the guys, that loss last year kind of adds a lot of fuel to the fire. And so I think it's just really, like you said at the very beginning of this, just bringing that momentum from last year and trying to carry that on this year.
Maki, we know that Buffalo and Saskatchewan went the distance in the final.
Yeah.
They had pretty good seasons as well. Do the Thunderbirds have something for those two squads this year?
That's right. I feel like we always have, and even since this team, because it was originally located in Rochester, so it's kind of like that battle of the I-95, the highway down in the state of New York. And so even since moving here, we've always had that rivalry with Buffalo. And they have a great, fan base down there. Bandit Land is what they call them. So anytime we host them, we go down there, which we get to do. We see them twice this year. We're definitely, ready to go and try to take down the 3-time defending champs. And then for Saskatchewan, obviously, leaving a bit of a bad taste in our mouth with that loss last year handed to us. But we also get to see them twice this year. And so it's exciting to see that, we can add some new pieces like we have this season and try to really bring that to them this year.
Season gets underway. It's, oh my goodness, it's right around the corner, isn't it? It's like Wednesday.
Yeah, 1 week today.
or December. That's crazy. And we're opening at home this year.
That's right. Yeah, we've actually lucked out the last 2 seasons. We've kind of been given that week 1 bye, which is a little interesting. But that just means that we get to open up the season at home, which is so exciting. And so I think we'll be welcoming Oshawa, which is a newer team. They relocated from Albany last year, so another Canadian team that we'll get to welcome inside the nest. And we're definitely excited to get things fired up here in Halifax next Friday.
So I imagine tickets are available, and the place will be rocking.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's less than 500 seats in the lower bowl remaining, which is exciting. So, that's only going to skyrocket as we keep kind of pushing the needle leading up to next Friday. So make sure, if you're listening and you're interested, you can go to halifaxthunderbirds.com/tickets to secure your seats. But we're super excited to welcome the fans. I know that's, the most exciting thing for our players is coming back home and then seeing those fans and all the orange and purple in the crowd. And it really, really gets them excited.
Feel the thunder, Maki.
That's right.
Appreciate your time. Have the best
Thank
season
you.
this year, and stay in touch, will you?
Awesome. Thank you so much, and thanks for having me as always.
That is Maki Jenner from the Halifax Thunderbirds. Folks, if you haven't been, or you just watched it on TV, it's a completely different experience. I've been to a few games over the last 6 years for the Thunderbirds, and it is it's as exciting to watch as a Mooseheads game is. We know that we get some of the best crowds in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. We get great crowds. 500 seats left in the lower bowl. That's a pretty significant amount of people that are going to be there for the home opener. And boy, they're close last year. They were close last year. And boy, if we can just get them over the top and get them into the championship, can you imagine? Anyway, tickets available. You can just log onto their website and find it. And if you've not been before, go, because it's certainly a lot of fun. And hopefully I will see you there. We're getting ready to take another break here on the fabulous Friday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. On the other side of it, of course, it's time for the Friday free-for-all. Often imitated, never duplicated. Is that the way I say it? It's Friday. And we look forward to this every week. This is the opportunity for you to lead the conversation. I know we have regular rules with the open hour where I say and if everything goes, you can talk about whatever it is on your mind. But this is the Friday free for all. Your chance to get some stuff off your chest. Something that we talked about this week that you wanted to comment on. There was a lot of stories this week. Something that we didn't talk about because it was so busy. Maybe we missed something that you feel we should bring to the listeners' attention. This is a good opportunity to do that as well. I'll try to keep my comments to a minimum, but in order for that to happen, we have to have lots of callers, and I suggest that you call early so that you're not disappointed. I don't want to disappoint anybody heading in to a weekend as we bring you the Friday free-for-all coming up after the news. The telephone lines are now open. The number, as you well know, 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255, 1-877-801-8255. The Friday free-for-all takes over the show after the news. All right, the fabulous Friday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show continues, and it is the traditional time, and we are taking the wrapping off the Friday free-for-all. If you have something you want to talk about, this is your chance to bring it to everybody's attention. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. It has been a heck of a week, hasn't it? There's been lots that's been going on. Dartmouth Cove was back in the news today. The provincial government, the minister responsible, John A. MacDonald's, approving the project with a caveat, which is interesting to me, in my opinion, but I'm interested in what you think about it, saying that, you can go ahead with it as long as you can prove that the city has jurisdiction with it. So that, I think, would be considered a victory for those that have been proponents of stopping the infilling at Dartmouth Cove. That might be something you want to talk about. We've, of course, been talking about budgets. We've been talking about the city, who I think are going to get back at it here very shortly. I think the 9th of December, is the next budget meeting. I stand to be corrected on that. But city staff now working to try and whittle down that 10.5% increase in property tax. The pipeline, Mark Carney in the news yesterday. Can we call Mark Carney the Daniel Smith whisperer? Right? She has not been the strongest proponent, the biggest fan of the federal Liberal government since she became Premier of Alberta. I don't think I'm speaking at a class when I say that. But yesterday, watching that signing of that memorandum of understanding, Daniel Smith looked like it was a Christmas come early. She was laughing, she was smiling, and Mark Carney has at least on this file. I would imagine that there are still some animosities between the two, but at least on this file, he appears to have changed Daniel Smith's mind. Very interesting. My concern is that if there was ever going to be an Energy East plan, that this might have been the death knell. I think that having two major projects like this, with all of the political capital, not to mention the money that's attached to it, is going to be, or would be, a rather tall order for a federal government to try and get through, considering the number of jurisdictions the Energy East pipeline would have to intersect through, that being through big chunk of Manitoba, big chunk of Ontario, Quebec, of course, and then into New Brunswick and then to saltwater. So we'll have to keep our eyes open on that. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Also an opportunity for you today to send your best thoughts and well wishes to Team Black, who are getting ready to take the ice in a couple of hours' time. They advanced to the finals of the Olympic trials yesterday in front of that home crowd. And if you were watching the coverage, the jacket of Colleen Jones was hanging in one of the boxes there, so maybe a little divine intervention, perhaps. But anyway, no matter what or whatever source of power they used, they managed to beat Carrie Anderson yesterday and have now advanced to the finals. It's a best of three. And Team Black will be facing off against Rachel Holman and the Holman Empire, as it's called, the best player, I think, in the world. So the task is high, but hey, we've already upset one set of players that we weren't supposed to beat. So, hey, let's go for two. Why not? Why not? No pressure, right? So send that Blue Noser spirit the best you can to muster up and send that down to Scotiabank Centre. And we'll be watching here at the Todd Veinotte Show and cheering on Jill and Christine and the rest of their team as they look to earn a berth to the games in Italy. Can you imagine? 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We begin with Gloria. Gloria, how are you?
Hi, Dan. I'm well. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I watched the curling. I was so excited for Black. And, Einerson, I think, was in shock.
Oh, I think so. She could tell.
Oh, I don't think they expected that. But they stayed cool and calm, and it was wonderful to see them win. And it was nice to see the Jones family there.
For sure. Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm calling with an alert this morning.
Uh-oh.
An alert for all ratepayers out there. If they agree with what I'm going to say, they should take action. There is Tuesday, I think it is, there's Councillor Steele, and I'm surprised that she's doing it, is bringing forward requests for council to ask the provincial government to look at this cap on assessments. If that cap is removed or even changed, it's going to make it very difficult for a lot of ratepayers. It's okay if you're sitting there making $100,000, and there are a lot of ratepayers who are not making half of that,
right,
and they're still trying to maintain their properties. So, they'll tell you that, we get all that extra assessment, we'll reduce the tax rate. That might happen the first year, but then they'll find ways to spend it. So my alert to them, I've already called and left a message for the Premier, and I talked to David Hensby, but my alert to them is get on top of it, if you agree with me, right away. Call your councillors, call your MLA. Years ago when I was on council and there was talk of that, Linda Mosier and I went down and made a presentation at the legislature to tell them they can't do that or not to do that, and they didn't. So it's very important that people pay attention. As I said, if they agree with me and think it should be there, I think it should be there. So let's get on top of it right away.
Gloria, just so everybody knows what we're talking about, this is the cap that is imposed on assessment increases, right? For those
on your property assessment,
right?
And it's substantial. And that all happened. That all came about years ago when German people bought property down on the South Shore and paid a lot for it. And the assessment department, I know one sale doesn't make a market, and that's not the way you're supposed to do it. But they increased everybody's assessment, and people who held land for years wouldn't be able to afford to keep it. So the government stepped in and put the cap on. So that's how it all began.
I appreciate you bringing that to everybody's attention. Gloria, have a great weekend.
You also.
Thanks,
and good
Gloria.
luck to Black Team.
Absolutely. I'll send that as well. That's, of course, Gloria kicking off the Friday Free-for-All, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. The assessment cap has been something that's been talked about as a potential for an increase in revenue, right? There have been some that will suggest that some properties that have been under that cap for several years are paying an unproportionate low amount of tax as opposed to somebody that's in the same neighborhood that has the same setup, the same square feet, the same housing footprint, but have bought that house. And if you bought recently, then you're not subject to the cap, as I understand it. So there are people on the same street that are paying very different amounts of tax because of their assessed value, correct? So I'm assuming that, and I won't speak for Councillor Steele, but I'm assuming that is one of the things that she's looking at, as she said here a couple of weeks ago on the program, that they're going to look at everything. At least she's going to look at everything. Some councillors maybe not so much, but she's going to look at everything to try and lower that tax rate. Might be something you want to talk about. Lines are wide open, folks. This is an opportunity for you to get in. It's the Friday Free for All. You can talk about whatever it is on your mind. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. The Free for All continues after the break. All right. Friday Free for All continues. The lines are open, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. This is our weekend wrapping up open, our weekday wrapping up open hour, not the weekend wrapping up, Dan. But this gives you an opportunity to share your thoughts on whatever it is that's on your mind, something that you want to bring to our attention. The lines are wide open, folks. You can do that right now, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Earlier, I was getting ready for the show and was having a conversation with some people around the radio station here, and I mentioned that this weekend is the weekend that has been circled on my calendar to wade into that storage room and through all the dust bunnies and everything else that live in there and dig out the Christmas tree box. It's time to put the tree up this weekend. And isn't it interesting how a yearly tradition, something that we do every year in every family, well, I shouldn't say every family, but most families do, and they start to decorate and they start to put the tree up, and how that causes a debate amongst people around the water cooler. It's very interesting. Everybody has their own way of doing things, right? And that's fantastic as far as I'm concerned. But the debate over Christmas trees and putting them up, is it too early? Is it too late? But the bigger debate that happens, and it's already starting here, is the use of either artificial or a real tree. We know Nova Scotia has a robust Christmas tree industry here. And I know that there is some concern in that industry this year, dealing with some of the ongoing trade disputes with the United States. But that debate is already raging here. Somebody told me yesterday that they saw a lot being set up, a Christmas tree lot being set up with the real trees and the wreaths and all the other things that are associated with that. So that started the inevitable debate here at the radio station about artificial versus real, right? Some people saying that you can't, it's not Christmas in the house unless we have the real tree. And others saying, no, I can't stand the needles. I can't stand all the mess, the fire hazard that's associated with trees that dry out, particularly if you put them up early. So I'm on team artificial. Some, like me, don't have a choice. We cannot have real Christmas trees in the building that I live in. So I'm forced to team artificial. That being said, I do like a real Christmas tree and just the smell that it brings. And I've even tried to duplicate it or replicate it with the candles and the diffusers and all of that stuff, but it's not the same smell. It's that chemical pine, and that's just sinus clog inducing, is it not? It's just not the same. So I'm very lucky where I live. I live very close to an area that is treed, and has a walking trail through it. So I go out and take lots of walks this time of the year, particularly after that rain today when the pine needles get wet and you can really smell them, and then that gets my fix. But some people will put wreaths up. They put cedar up, which is not as much as we used to see. It's hard to find cedar now, but it's one of those scents of Christmas. Anyway, it starts that inevitable debate, and it started here yesterday. We were having it out there in front of in fact, we're literally standing in front of the water cooler doing it, and it was artificial versus real. It's real, folks. We're into the season. The calendar is going to turn on Monday. Can you believe it? I can't believe we're all the way through November. It's wild. It just seems like it was the leaves were just coming out, and now we're into the month of December. And Aalders Aalders, our weather specialist, is in the building. He's going over his latest charts, and he will join us in hour number 3 today. And there might be something that's lurking out there weather-wise that may really put people into the Christmas spirit. I don't want to steal any of his thunder, pun intended, but we could be seeing the first shovelable snow of the year. I don't know if I'm looking forward to that or not. 902-405-6001, 877-801-8255. Back to the phones. We welcome Carl to the show. Carl, how are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good. What's on your mind today, sir?
Well, a shout out to Todd if he's listening.
For sure.
Our hearts and minds are with him. All right, I got a proposition for you.
Uh-oh.
You share your fishing hole with me, and I'll share my surf spot that nobody knows about with you. And I'll take you surfing, and you take me fishing. Does that sound like a deal or what?
Carl, I tried it once. I tried it when I was away on vacation once, and I just don't have the balance or I was unable to get up on the board, to be honest.
Well, I specialize in that. I've been instructing for 33 years.
Wow.
Actually, longer than that. I've been surfing for 53.
Holy smokes.
I'm an old boy. I started when I was a kid, right? So you'll be in good hands. I guarantee you. You paddle out with me for 3 hours. I'll have you standing up, running waves.
Carl,
no problem.
You know how those fishing spots are. That's like top secret stuff, right?
Oh, it's golden. I know. Well, that's why I need you. Because I want to catch.
If I say it on the air, Carl, everybody's going to find it.
No, don't tell me where it is. You're going to take me there, and I'm going to take you surfing. That's the deal.
Well, let me think about that one, all right?
All right, buddy. 452-SURF. 902, of course.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for the call, Carl.
Have a good day.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. We're talking, that's born from the conversation that we were having yesterday, right? That survey that I think it was MSN.com put out that called Peggy's Cove one of the most overrated tourist spots in North America, and based it purely on how busy it is there. Got a lot of emails from you all yesterday saying pretty much the same thing, that it's almost rare for somebody that lives very close to Peggy's Cove, like most of us do here, to actually go there, particularly during the height of the tourist season. I would imagine more of you are probably prone to go down there this time of the year, as the tourist season kind of backs off and in through the winter, and then in the early spring. But when the tourist season's on, many of you won't, because it has become a victim of its own success, right? It has become so popular that I just don't enjoy my time there when it's full of people. And hey, it's a revenue generator. It's why people come to Nova Scotia to go to Peggy's Cove, and I get it. And more power to them. If they want to go down there with all those people in May, June, July, August, and September, and into October, be my guest. Take all kinds of pictures. Tell your friends. All come to Nova Scotia and spend your tourist dollars here. I certainly don't want to come across as being that I don't want people to be there, because it's so good for our economy. But it's a difficult place, and a lot of you sent me some secret spots, with the caveat that I don't share them on the air, because you don't want to give them away. And Carl, boy, you're really asking a lot for me to share my top secret fishing spots with you. I'll have to consider that. The season's a long way off. Don't get to be able to go fish trout until April. So maybe we'll consider that. But it would be fun to get out there and get up on a surfboard, right? I've never surfed in Nova Scotia. I surfed where it was warm, and it wasn't for very long, and I didn't get very much surfing in because I'm just not coordinated enough to get up on that moving thing. But Carl says he can make it happen. Maybe that would be a bit that Vanessa could bring the cameras out and videotape. I don't think the world's ready to see me in a wetsuit, though. Just saying. We're going to take a break. The Friday Free-For-All is going to continue on the other side of it, folks. If you don't want me to talk all through the whole thing, it's easy. Pick up your phone, dial 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255, and then we'll turn the show over to you. That's what the Friday Free-For-All is about. Again, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. The Friday Free-For-All will continue after the break. Welcome back. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. This is the Friday Free-For-All, your opportunity to talk about whatever it is on your mind. Let's go to the phones and welcome Michael to the show. Michael, how are you?
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm well. What's on your mind?
Nova Scotia Power. So I gave them a call yesterday. They were very cordial, very polite. They said, look, we can't straighten things out till March 1st. And I said, well, from what I read, there were 550,000 customers in the province for Nova Scotia Power. We received our bill last week, $410 above normal, which is not normal. And they said, well, it's an estimate. And I said, well, that's fine. And they said, well, there's no interest on it. I said, well, I'm not paying it until I can get a true reading on the meter. And they said, well, that's your choice. We won't disconnect. So I encourage all, just don't pay them. I mean, if you're going to give them $350 extra of your money, we should at least get interest back on it, I think. Get a true reading off the meter, and then we'll go from there. But it's like I said, she goes, we're inundated with calls. We're doing the best we can. And I said, well, yeah, that's fine. So you'll wait for my money until I get a true reading off the meter. And they were fine with that. So we're not paying them anything.
Michael, and I agree with you, right? And that's what I did with mine. What I did with mine was I paid what I paid last year. And the reason why I did that is that, if this goes to March before they're able to get true readings from everybody, then there could be 2 and in some cases 3 billing cycles in there. So you're going to be staring down it could be a significant power bill once they get that number right. So that's why I kind of wanted to stay ahead of the game a little bit and paid what I paid last year.
That's fine. I'd rather have a true reading of the kilowatt hours of usage,
right,
and I will pay. Well, I'm not going to spend the money we have allotted because most people are on budget. You kind of have to be these days or you won't have utilities.
Yeah.
But no, we're okay with that. We're going to wait. And they said, that's fine. That's your choice. I said, you could come out and manually read it. She goes, there's just no way we can come out and manually read 550,000 meters by March 1st. So, and I watched Tim Houston yesterday go to bat for us. I truly believe that he's an advocate for the Nova Scotians as far as power bills are concerned. But I watched that smoke and mirror show with Peter Gregg, I think his name is.
Yep.
And I just don't understand. I mean, I'm hearing they're not paying contractors like us, Splund and what have you, people that do tree trimming. They're waiting for money. So I think this extra $300 times 550,000, that may take care of their bills for their contractors. I don't know how they work internally, but I just said to them politely, we're just going to wait. We're going to wait for a true reading off the meter. And if I owe 3 bills, then so be it. We've budgeted for that, but I just don't think we've changed our lifestyle to warrant $350 extra on our bill. The kilowatt hours, it's like I said, I want a true reading off these smart meters, and that's all I can say. So I encourage other people, just don't pay them. Just wait till you get the actual reading.
Thanks, Michael. Have a great weekend.
Happy Friday. Thank you.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. There's a lot of people out there that are thinking the same way that Michael is, and he's correct. Nova Scotia Power, during their testimony in front of that legislative committee earlier this week, had said the very same thing, that they're not charging interest, they're not charging late fees, and they're not going to disconnect anybody until these meters are back online. They said the same thing when we had an interview with one of their spokespersons here on this program a few weeks back. But, to Michael's point, to be able to budget for that and keep that money in the bank, and and wait for the true reading is that's great if you're able to do that. But we know there's a lot of people that are struggling, and maybe some out there that are not the same type of money manager that Michael and his family are, and maybe for no fault of their own, right? It's Christmas, there's something happens, and my concern, and I can only speak for me, is that if I waited until I got a true reading and it came back and it was 2 cycles or 3 cycles, then that could be a significant chunk of change. So and this is just what I do, is I just paid what I paid last year. I have my old bills, and I looked back on my old statements, and I paid what I paid last year. And once this situation is resolved and they make it whole, as they said yesterday, then whatever the adjustment is, I'll be good with that. But I think that's a decision that each individual has to make on their own. But I like what I heard from Premier Houston yesterday, where he said that it just feels like the utility is I think his words were shrugging their shoulders at this cyber outage. It's like, well, it's difficult, and we're rebuilding our systems, and we're working our way through it, but we're not going to have this back until March. March is a long time away. It's 4 months away. And how long have we been dealing with this? I don't know. I'm not an IT person. Maybe somebody out there that's smarter than I can call and let us know if this is normal for a company that has been victim of something like this to change their business systems and take this amount of time to rectify it and to get the meters back on. But it just feels like it's a very long time. And, there's going to be some people that have had 3 cycles of their bills, and my cycle's every 2 months. And I know there's some that are longer and others that are shorter. But that could be a big bill at the end of things, right? 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Back to the phones. We welcome Scott to the show. Scott, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. What's on your mind?
I just don't ever hear anybody talking much about where all the money from the property taxes is going to. I don't know if anybody ever has taken time to look at the Halifax City Sunshine List. Mm-hmm. You'll see there's like 90% of that list is police, fire department, and you're looking at salaries in excess of $150,000 with overtime. There's even Metro Transit bus drivers making over $100,000 a year with their overtime.
Right.
And one thing that maybe the city could look at is how they're allowing these people to schedule themselves to maximize on overtime.
Oh, well, and I don't doubt that some are, Scott, but I can tell you at least from a police perspective that a lot of their overtime comes from going to court.
Oh, yes, definitely. But I just don't know if there's a better way they can do it to reduce that cost.
Yeah, the police chief a couple of chiefs ago sat down and explained that to me, and he said that all the time that a police officer spends in court is overtime. So I don't know if there's a change to the funding formula or if there's a way that they can make that better. And we know that overtime is expensive. I get that, yeah. But I just
see a list that has grown from, I think back in 2012. I can't remember exactly. It was 8 pages long. Now I think it's 28 pages long. There's names.
There's a lot of people on it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, man. Have a good one. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Not making excuses, but we did run stories for a significant amount of time in the immediate aftermath and after the end of the quote-unquote end of the pandemic, that Halifax Transit was short drivers, a lot of drivers. And I don't know if that is the reason why the bus drivers are showing up on that because of them covering shifts. Do some people schedule themselves to take advantage of it? And I'm not suggesting that Halifax Transit drivers do, but I do know that people will take advantage of scheduling to do over. That's not just a Halifax issue. That's a nationwide issue. That being said, firefighters and police officers and frontline people like that, I understand the need for overtime. But one wonders if there's that much overtime out there, if we hired more staff, more police officers, more firefighters, more ambulance attendants, or sorry, I shouldn't say ambulance attendant, paramedics. My apologies to them out there. They're paramedics. then maybe the overtime numbers come down. Interesting, right? We often hear debate over the cost of hiring new staff. It was one of the things that was talked about already in the budget session was hiring, I think it was 9 new police officers for Eastern Passage, and that was defeated because of the cost of the overhead. But what does that mean on the back end of things with overtime, right? It's a cause and effect, my opinion. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Friday Free For All continues right after the break.
X.
All right, welcome back. Friday Free For All continues. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We welcome David to the show. David, how are you?
Not too bad. A little down in the dumps, but I just wanted to call that when I came down here to the senior complex, that there's a lot of memories here that I can recall. I bet you Gloria would remember this, that across the street is Albany Gate, right?
Yep.
Okay, now, in my time, there was a bar and grill on the bottom and an apartment on the rooftop.
Okay.
That's where we lived. In the middle, there was the Metropolitan. And where the library is today, there used to be a little candy store. There used to be Mrs. Horner's Corner Store. It's good.
You're going back a year or two there, I think, David.
What's that?
You're going back a year or two, right?
Oh, many, many, many moons.
Right.
And before the fire, there used to be a Reitman's where the little garden is there before you're the Celtic Corner, I think it's called.
Celtic Corner, yeah.
Yeah. The Reitman's used to be there. You used to get cotton candy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. David, I appreciate you calling us. Have a fantastic weekend, all right, sir?
You have a good day, and yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. I bet you there's a lot of people out there that have corner store stories, right? There's still some out there. I think we have one in our neighborhood. But they're not as prevalent as they used to be. I can remember as a kid, you know, and I probably shouldn't out my parents like this, but I can remember as being a youngster getting an envelope, right? Just a regular letter envelope with some money in it, cash, and a list on the front. And I would walk down to the corner store, and I'm talking 5, 6, 7 years old. And I remember walking down to the store with this envelope in my hand and handing it to the guy at the store, which everybody knew him, right? And handing it to him, and my mother had listed the things that she wanted: milk, butter, smokes. And he would go out and pick it all out, and he put it on there, and he would ring it in, and then if there was any change left, which my mother was she was cheap. I'll just say it out loud. But she would always make sure there was. She had to be. I mean, at that time in the late 70s and early 80s, everybody was in the same situation, right? And there was always a quarter or 35 cents left or whatever like that. And that was for me. And I could go to the penny candy. Do you remember going there? I certainly do. I don't know if any. Well, A, the cigarettes thing we can't do anymore. But B, I don't know if anybody trusts a store owner enough to do that anymore. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are some out there, but I don't think you would trust your 6-year-old with an envelope of money to walk down to the corner store and hand it to a stranger to get your shopping done, right? I did it many, many times. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Welcome Dave to the show. Dave, how are you?
Very good, Dan. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, sir. What's on your mind today?
Well, I just want to talk about this proposed pipeline, or at least the memorandum of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I'd sure like to know what the legality of memorandum of understanding is. And I'd love to see our natural resources moved, which we should have been doing years ago. Putting a pipeline from Alberta through to BC is going to be. There's a lot of red tape just with the indigenous lands, First Nations.
Yep. You've
got a mountainous terrain there that is unbelievable. If anybody's gone through the Rockies at all, it's unbelievable to try to put that through there. It's going to take decades, I would think, or at least many, many years. I suspect our track record with pipelines isn't good as far as seeking investors go, because that's going to be a big part of this.
For
right?
sure. They are actively asking for a private company like somebody like TransCanada Pipeline or somebody like that to come in and build this thing, and there hasn't been a lot of uptake from what I understand.
We saw the disaster of Keystone XL, right? I mean, although that was Biden's doing, shutting that down right away on day one, I think. But pipes are still laying. Like, they're just sitting in places now, mothballed, because we haven't gotten anything done. So, and I think with the Premier Eby, who's an NDP environmentalist, and ironically, Dan, one of the biggest exports that BC has is coal. And it goes out of Prince Rupert, and it goes to China, and it goes to the United States. And that's where they get their coal. And if he's an environmentalist and worried about carbon, we're just giving this stuff to these countries that don't really. And I think the U.S. has also loosened up their environmental, and China has a track record of horrendous. They're opening up coal all the time. So I think it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, this. But you're right. I mean, Danielle Smith, she looked very happy. Maybe there's something else there. And, it could be vetoed very quickly as well. Quebec is going to show some disgruntledness here.
Yeah, but see, that was the part that upset me yesterday, Dave, was like Quebec is saying that they're going to stop this. Well, how can they?
Well, I mean, they can, I'm sure. I don't know how, but Quebec can rattle the chain, right? Yep. And it can make a lot of noise. So Carney has to, we've taken care of Quebec over the years. We've given them all kinds of stuff to keep them happy. Otherwise, we've heard separation. Talk about separation. I mean, that's another issue. But I mean, they've threatened in the past, and they'll do it again. So you got to appease them to a certain degree. There's a lot of power there. But I don't think we'll get our pipeline out to the East Coast here if they're going to try to put that through. But I'm just thinking the logistics. How about that? To get a pipeline from Alberta to British Columbia with all the, like I said, you got to go through native lands. You got to go through some of the toughest terrains in the world to get that over to, I believe, Burnaby or wherever they want to get it to, and then Vancouver, or it could go to Prince Rupert. I'm not too sure. Is it bitumen they're moving?
It is, but they're going to put it through some kind of process to make it, and I'm putting quotes around this, cleaner.
Which is also another horrendous expense. You've got to almost refine that, I would think. So, right. The logistics of it to me, and I don't want to be negative, and I'll tell you what, I'll take my hat off. I'll become a Carney supporter much more if this thing can possibly get done, because I think it's very important that we do move our resources. Very, very important. But we're bogged down here, and he's got his hands full. So on that note, Dan, you have a great weekend, sir.
You too, sir. I appreciate the call.
Thank you.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. As I said earlier, man, I would love to be in that room today when the Prime Minister sits down with the Premier of British Columbia, David Eby, to discuss this project. Of course, all of the things Dave has said was very true, that he is an NDP member and is an environmentalist and has been very opposed to this kind of pipeline project from the minute that he became Premier. As I said during our discussion with Tim Powers earlier today, it felt to me like the decision was made and BC was at the table and was just told what to do. So not really even at the table. It was like you're at the dinner table and your parents have told you that this is what we're doing, or we're doing this, or we're going here, or this is the school you're going to because it'll be good for you. And I don't know. Does a province have enough pull to stop a project like this? Or does it get declared as a matter of national interest and so on and so forth? Dave is right that the Indigenous communities in BC will certainly have a role to play in this, and will need to be certainly involved in the discussion and involved in the process from start to finish if they want to be involved in it at all. A number of the First Nations that I've seen in the early days after this announcement yesterday have said absolutely this is not something that's going to happen. So it will be fun to watch, to sit back and see how Prime Minister Carney navigates this as this project moves forward, if it does move forward. But Quebec came out yesterday, as we fully expected them to do, and said that if this happens to BC, this could happen to Quebec, and we're not going to let this happen. I just feels to me that that's the same, comes from the same songbook. Whenever there's these kind of projects, Quebec says the same thing. I would be very interested to see how they are able to spin this to their people and to be able to stop a project like this from happening when it's not anywhere near their jurisdiction. But to Dave's point, I do think that Energy East, because of this and because of the magnitude of this project, I think Energy East, that would be the pipeline that was proposed to run from Alberta to somewhere here in the Maritimes to get access to Europe and to access to salt water, of course. I think that project is pretty much done. I don't think the federal government has the political capital nor the actual capital to be able to float two projects like this at the same time. I really just don't think that they can afford to do it, because it's going to be just a mammoth project and a mammoth price tag attached to it. Thank you to each and every one of you. Dial the numbers and join the conversation here on a dark, dreary Friday. I know it's a weekend, and many of you probably already starting it. So we look forward to your conversations on Monday when we open up the telephone lines here once again. We're going to take a break, get an update on the news at noon, and on the other side of it, the show continues, of course, a conversation with the new chair of the Atlantic Economic Panel. This was the one that was announced by Sean Fraser earlier this week. Don Mills will be joining the program to tell us a little bit about this panel, its mandate, and what he expects to see happen as a result of this. A conversation with Atlantic Economic Panel Chair Don Mills after the news. The Atlantic Economic Panel, a private sector-led initiative established to catalyze economic transformation in Atlantic Canada. The 7-person panel will identify opportunities, barriers, and interventions to drive productivity growth, strengthen competitiveness, and secure long-term prosperity for our region. Earlier this week here on the program, we chatted with Sean Fraser about this new economic panel and that's been struck, and he gave us kind of an overarching view of what it is and what he'd like to see come out of this after I think it's a year or about a year. But to get into the nuts and bolts of it, we're very lucky to be able to welcome to the show the chair of this new Atlantic Economic Panel, and that is Don Mills. Don, how are you?
Dan, I'm pretty good. Thank you very much.
It has been a while since we've chatted.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
Don, tell me a little bit about this. I asked the minister what the mandate of this panel is, and I'm curious to get sort of the inner workings of that. What is it that this 7-person panel is designed to do?
In a nutshell, we've been asked to find transformative opportunities to bring our economy up to standard in the country in terms of both GDP and productivity. So no small undertaking, as you can imagine. But I am going into this task with great optimism, given all the great things that we see happening in the region already. And by the way, in the wake of the book that David Campbell and I wrote, we also identified this as a moment of truth for the region, where we can take advantage of the momentum that seems to be in place.
Would it be fair, Don, to suggest that Atlantic Canada as a region as a whole have missed opportunities that in the past that could have been of benefit?
That's exactly right. And let me just give you one example, and I'm sure this will upset people who are listening, but we have not taken advantage of the natural resources that we have in this region. This is especially true in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, where we're too quick to say no, and we don't seem to have a sufficient ambition or bold thinking about what the possibilities could hold. And one of the jobs of the panel is to not just identify those opportunities, but to delineate them in terms of the scope of the opportunity and a bit of a roadmap on how those opportunities could actually be achieved.
So then, Don, how do you go about doing that? Are you actively going to go out and talk to people in these various industries and get their thoughts and then sort of collate all that into a big document?
Well, Dan, we've actually been working since the panel's been working since early October, and we've been working on our work plan to how we can tackle this task. Today, we're going to be sending out a request for submissions of all the sectors across the region to get their opinions about the most significant economic opportunities they see in each of their sectors. So, the process is underway. So obviously, we're trying to provide the opportunity for everybody to have a say in their sector about the things that hold the greatest promise for transforming the economy in Atlantic Canada.
Don, having a vibrant economy in Atlantic Canada is important, but in order to achieve that, we also have to look at the resources, not outside of the natural resources. I'm thinking of human resources that are available. Is that something else you're going to look at? Is how our workforce will stack up for this?
Well, there's no question that if we are successful in identifying the most promising opportunities to transform this economy, it will put great pressure on our workforce. And the recent slowing of immigration and population growth is very concerning to me personally. And I'm pretty sure that we're going to be having some commentary on what needs to be done to make sure that the workforce is in place to take advantage of the opportunities that we identify.
Will you be approaching things like the universities and NSCC and those type of institutions to get those answers? We're already going to be reaching out to the post-secondary to get their opinions about what needs to be done. But clearly, there's a lot of players involved in workforce development, and we're going to try to make sure that we get a clear sense of what needs to be done. But the most important thing that needs to be done, Dan, is to grow our population under some controlled basis that we can manage properly. Growing the population, not an easy task these days, though, is it, Don, with the affordability crisis and all the housing issues that we're facing?
Yeah, but you know what, Dan, I'm going to say this, and again, not everybody might not agree, but I'd rather have the problems of growth than the problems of decline, and that's where we were headed only 4 or 5 years ago. An aging population, a declining workforce, and dim economic prospects. The good news is that we've had population growth of some significance in the region. It's been actually brought down by the federal government temporarily, I think. But this is a country that the population has grown year in and year out for 60 years at about 1%. We went through a period where it grew as much as 3%, and we weren't prepared for it. We need to. I think we're in a situation of figuring out how to prepare for growth under control. Whether that's 1.5%, we've done it in the past, and I'm pretty sure we can do it in the future.
You don't have a lot of time. This is a mammoth project, and you don't have a lot of time. As I understand it, the recommendations are due by the summer of next year.
That's right, but I'm not bothered by the time table. I mean, we've got a business group. We're used to tight deadlines. As I said, we've already started our process of gathering information, and we've already got some broad areas that we think hold the biggest promise, and I don't mind talking about them. Obviously, energy. This is a region that has so much energy opportunity. We have it all in this region, so we'll have to figure out how to take advantage of that. Obviously, with the government's decision to increase defense spending, we already have a pretty good defense industry in this region. There's big opportunity there for the region. We have the ocean sector, which is a bit of a unique advantage for our area that we see as a big opportunity, and also critical minerals, which is something that we've had trouble taking advantage of. And, the mining industry in Nova Scotia has declined by 60% in the last number of years. Yet, we need critical minerals to deal with the issue of climate change and supporting the conversion of the transportation sector to electricity. So, we can't have it both ways. We need to find out a way to safely, mine our minerals, and I think we can do that.
A lot of these areas you've identified, Don, have been talking points for the Premier of Nova Scotia for the last year at least. I would imagine you will have some help from him and from the provincial government on this.
Well, we intend to engage with the four provincial governments, and we've already got that process started, and we obviously are looking for the provinces to identify what they consider to be the most, viable economic opportunities to grow the economy beyond the kind of meager growth rates that we've had over the last 20 years or so. And one other thing I want to mention, because I think this is really part of the mandate that Sean Fraser has given us or asked us to do, is that, we need to find a way for greater collaboration in Atlantic Canada. We need to figure out, and we write about it in our book. The book's called Towards Prosperity, by the way. Not a bad title for the work that we're asked to do. To find some ways for the region to collaborate and to figure out how we can work together. In the book, we actually call for a common market with no interprovincial trade barriers. We came out with that before it became a thing. And also the other big thing that we have to figure out and make recommendations on is how we can get our regulatory process in place. That New Brunswick and Nova Scotia have the lowest productivity in the country. And one of the reasons is that we haven't been able to develop our natural resources, which tend to be capital intensive and drive productivity. So, and we got to figure out a way to turn that around and make it attractive for companies outside to invest in our region.
Don, we're out of time. I appreciate yours. Have a fantastic weekend. Always good to chat with you.
Thanks, Dan. Have a great day.
That is Don Mills. He's the chair of this new panel that's been struck to look at opportunities here in Atlantic Canada. Well, there's a benefit being put on this weekend for Jamaican survivors of Hurricane Melissa. We're going to dig into this with the president of the Jamaican Cultural Association of Nova Scotia, Olive Phillips, will be our guest when we return. This is the Todd Veinotte Show. We're back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. As we roll along here on a Friday, a benefit concert is slated for tomorrow to benefit those that were impacted in Jamaica by Hurricane Melissa. The Jamaican Cultural Association for Nova Scotia, in partnership with the Black Cultural Centre for Nova Scotia, the Black Culture and Heritage Foundation of Canada, and the Canadian Museum of Immigration at Pier 21, will present tomorrow afternoon, Standing Together for Jamaica, benefit concert and silent auction. It takes place at 4 o'clock with the proceeds to be sent through the Red Cross and to try and help those that were impacted by that absolutely a monster storm. We're very pleased to welcome into the show today to tell us a little bit more about this, the president of the Jamaican Cultural Association of Nova Scotia. That is Olive Phillips, and Olive joins me on the phone today. Olive, welcome to the show.
Oh, hello, Dan. Welcome. I'm pleased to speak with you.
I'm very glad you're able to spend some time with us. I imagine it's a pretty busy time considering this concert's tomorrow.
Yes, it has been, but yes, I wouldn't miss this opportunity to speak with you because I know you have so many questions.
I do have some questions, and the first one is, Olive, that there hasn't been a lot of coverage in the effort to clean up and rebuild after Hurricane Melissa. We saw the damage. We saw some of the stories of the flooding and all of the damage that happened as the storm passed, but What's the situation like there on the ground right now?
Well, interestingly enough, you said that because I watched a lot of it on the news here too. And then you're right. Suddenly, nobody is saying very much about what's happening. Well, what I understand, I've been in direct contact with the Jamaican High Commissioner in Ottawa, Her Excellency, who gives me updates. And I also am in touch with family members and others on the ground in Jamaica. So as far as they're concerned, they're thankful to God that they're alive. In the first place, they survived. But the cleanup is massive because the damage to the western part of the country is really, really serious. Places like St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Manchester, Trelawney, Montego Bay, St. Anne's, some of those areas are struggling to get back on track. Now, in terms of communication, the roads from Montego Bay to Kingston, I'm told, are okay, but going across the island, across the mountains into the north coast, some of those are still not very passable because of the degree of landslides and damage and so on. But as far as they're concerned, they're thankful for all the various groups who have come in to assist. And so they're trying to clean up, restoring power. I understand some people just got power like a few days ago in parts of the island. So it has been quite a big challenge, but they're very thankful for the support of churches and organizations from all over the world who are coming to give assistance.
Absolutely, and we know that these kind of efforts at the scale that is required in Jamaica are extremely costly, and many people are asking all of how they can help, and this benefit that you've planned for tomorrow down at Pier 21 is a way that they can do that.
Yes, definitely. We're very thankful for the support. Mr. Russell Gross at Black Cultural Center contacted us and said because there's such a wonderful connection historically and culturally between Jamaica and Nova Scotia, he felt that we should do something together. And so he organized this concert and auction, which is in collaboration with, as you mentioned, the Black Cultural Center, and of course with the Museum of Immigration at Pier 21. They're going to host it, and the Black Cultural Society, and of course Nova Scotian own J. Cans, yeah. And so we are thankful for all the professionals who are volunteering their time to sing and play their music and present an amazing concert, which will be very entertaining. And we're hoping that they'll raise quite a bit of money. Actually, you pay $25 just to register because they want to have an idea of how many people are coming. But you can also come that is done online, but you can also contribute at the door. But the extra donation that they need, the monies can be sent to the Black Cultural Center for Jamaican relief. And then, of course, what will happen, they'll get receipts, and they're connecting with, as you mentioned, Canadian Red Cross, and they are going to support the Canadian Red Cross, will support and match whatever we've made. So whatever people contribute, it's not something to sneeze at. It's something wonderful, and nothing is too small, and nothing is too big either. But it's amazing. People have been offering things for the auction too, and whatever happens or they get from the auction, that money goes together. So it'll be pooled together, and of course, eventually, Canadian Red Cross is going to do the remaining coordination and footwork in Jamaica because they have such good contacts there, and they know exactly what's going on the ground. You see, there's a big destruction of homes, hospitals, farms, livestock. The agriculture is just unbelievably decimated in some of the western parishes. And tourism, as you know, is a big thing in Jamaica, and that has been hit like crazy. And, of course, some schools and churches. And so it's a massive undertaking. But people are emotionally very resilient, and they're hopeful and thankful for everything they get. So we're just thankful for all those who are supporting us. And we hope that we'll get a good turnout tomorrow at the concert. And there are other people who want to match whatever we make, so they just contact Mr. Russell Gross, and they can send their checks there or whatever it is. And, of course, they'll be receiving tax receipts ultimately from that.
Olive, a big undertaking, and I know lots of people want to help, and I hope that you have a huge turnout there tomorrow for this wonderful musical event and silent auction. We wish you the very best. My heart goes out to all of the wonderful people of Jamaica as they go through this difficult time. I've been to Jamaica several times, and I know the people there are very resilient, and they will come back stronger. But the best we can do is to give them that helping hand, and let's make Jamaica better.
Well, thankfully that we need it. Thank you very, very much. And some lives were lost too.
Right.
But yes, we are very thankful for all the help, and we just pray that tomorrow will be a brighter day. No more storms come.
No more storms. They can stay. We need those anymore. I appreciate your time, Olive.
Okay, Dan. Good to talk to you. Thank you for your time too and your interest.
Very much.
Thank you.
That is Olive Phillips, the president of the Jamaican Society here in Nova Scotia. Big event. It starts at 4:00 down at Pier 21. All kinds of artists, various different types of music, a silent auction, and we can send some money down there, and it'll get matched by the Canadian government through the Red Cross, and we will lend our helping hand to that area. Spend lots of time in St. Anne's Parish in Jamaica, and it's the people there are just so friendly and are going through such a difficult time, and this is the way that we can best help them moving forward. We're going to stop. We're going to take yet another break on the show. We're going to get an update on the news, and then on the other side of it, some changes to the way that Environment Canada is going to alert us about impending weather and all of the talk of this monster that's lurking off the coast of Nova Scotia that could bring snow. Is it coming? What kind of snow? Is it going to be shovelable? A conversation with our weather specialist, Aalders Aalders, after the news. All right, lots to talk about with our weather specialist, Aalders Aalders. So let's welcome into the studio today. Sir, how are you?
Great. How are you?
It's busy these days, isn't it?
It's been a busy week. I mean, just weather-wise, and we've had, we're in an active weather pattern, so there's lots to talk about there. There's been changes into how weather alerts are going to be communicated, so it's felt very much like a busy week here.
Let's get the business out of the way first, the weekend weather forecast.
Sure.
It's looking kind of dreary out there right now. Is this going to continue? You said the F word earlier today. Is that still going to be a case?
So, I mean, gradually improving. Not the brightest weekend, which we would all like after a bit of a dull, damp week. Essentially what we have now is an upper level low spinning over. So that's, there's cooler air aloft. It's still relatively warm today for this time of year, but providing enough instability that we'll see, these few scattered showers, which you've had this morning, continuing this afternoon and into this evening. And as temperatures drop, likely those showers mixing over to a few flurries or maybe some brief bursts of light snow. Nothing too significant. The temperature does fall below freezing though tonight, so something to keep in mind. Tomorrow, sun in the mix to start, but it does become quite cloudy, and we're in a westerly wind, so we're not quite under the influence of the low itself, but with the cooler air, the winds blowing in off the Bay of Fundy, a few sea-effect flurries could drift in, especially north of the city, where we traditionally see in that kind of westerly flow this time of year. A bit of sun, but becoming mainly cloudy. Sunday, sunshine to start, but increasing clouds, and then our next system moves in Sunday night to early Monday. This track is a northern low, so that means we're going to see rain, no changeover with this system. It's going to be mild temperatures, no real official afternoon high on Sunday. We'll be near 2 degrees, but the temperature continues to rise Sunday night to peak near 10 degrees early Monday.
Wow.
So it's another mild
like
system,
yesterday.
Very much so. 8 to 15 millimeters on average, winds gusting upwards of 60 from the south Sunday night into early Monday. And then, obviously, we'll talk more about next week in just a moment, but on Monday, periods of rain tapering off in the morning, and then temperatures falling, and we do see a plunge of some cooler Arctic air moving in with, by Monday night into Tuesday, the overnight low -5, -6 in the Halifax area. So the weekend, not that wall-to-wall sunshine maybe we would like. I mean, maybe a bit festive with a few flurries in the air. There's a lot of, outdoor events that are ongoing now. But certainly cooler is the story after, low teen temperatures the last couple of days, 2 degrees, 3 degrees on average tomorrow and on Sunday.
We're putting the tree up this weekend, so maybe flurries are appropriate.
I think a lot of, tree lots are opening this weekend.
Yes.
People will be, picking out their trees or maybe cutting them down themselves. So, maybe getting people into the festive spirit. There's, festivals and outdoor events going on. Tree lightings are still happening around this time of year and even some local parades. So, the weather's somewhat appropriate. Good news that not too impactful for any plans for the most part. I would say, back towards the valley where those flurries come in right off the bay. Obviously, they could be enhanced a bit there, so we might see some localized accumulation through the valley, and then places like northern Cape Breton, likely some weak snow squalls up there. But, here in Halifax, just, a few flurries drifting through at times Saturday, otherwise, quiet. And then Sunday, mostly quiet, but turning wet and windy Sunday night.
All right. The elephant in the room. We've seen some reporting done on the potential of a nor'easter, which at this time of the year always raises people's eyebrows.
Indeed.
And this nor'easter could approach us Tuesday-ish into Wednesday. Alistair, I know it's still early, and I know that lots of things can happen. But your best guess, at least at this point, what we can expect from this? Are we going to see enough show that I have to find my shovel when I go to the storage room to get the tree?
Are we opening the Extreme Weather Center on Wednesday?
Right,
is
or
the
am
question.
I going into my storage room to get my tree out this weekend? Am I going to dig my snow shovel out too?
So what I'll tell you right now is, confidence is really high amongst the weather models that, we will see two pieces of energy coming together over the southern states, forming an area of low pressure that's going to track towards the northeast. And as I mentioned, we're going to have this cooler air moving in. So as that clashes with the warmer air over the eastern seaboard and over the Atlantic, that's really the perfect mix to allow a strengthening area of low pressure to develop. So models are all in agreement that the low will form, track northeast, at least towards Atlantic waters. Now, the uncertain part is where exactly does it track? And I would say right now there's two scenarios. Scenario number one is a track right along the Atlantic coast of Nova Scotia. If that was the case, we would likely see a period of snow that would mix over to ice or rain here in the Halifax area and the Atlantic coast. Depending on how far inland that low would track, would depend on, say, the rest of the province, because I know we have a lot of listeners outside of HRM itself. That's kind of scenario number one. Scenario number two is a track just a bit farther south, and if that is the case, there would be less opportunities for that warmer air over the ocean to move in, so the mixing would be more limited to the coast or not able to occur. That's really the two scenarios right now. I'm looking at a lot of different models right now, and today they seem to be kind of biting on the track up the Atlantic coast, which would favor snow mixing to rain. But when you look at, we talk a lot about the spaghetti models in the summertime with hurricanes. When you kind of look at that in terms of the center of low for this system, it is very much split between a track along the coast and a track a bit farther south. So there's still that uncertain component where if it does indeed track up the Atlantic coast, like a number of models are saying today, we would likely see that mixed weather event. But if it is able to track a bit farther south, and with these systems, it doesn't take it really going that much farther south relatively for it to be more so a snow event. The American, Canadian, and German models all kind of biting onto that coastal scenario. I would say the latest Canadian model is a bit farther south than earlier. The European model has been a bit of the outlier in terms of taking it a bit farther south than the consensus and bringing a more widespread snow event. So what I'll say to this point is, Tuesday night and Wednesday looks to be impactful weather-wise. Whether or not it's all snow or a mixed weather event still to be determined. I would say I'm leaning towards, at least in my forecasting right now, snow mixing with rain. But where we do see perhaps all snow, which will be likely parts of the region, certainly impactful and the first significant snow of the season with, certainly some substantial snowfall amounts in the forecast. But, as I mentioned, for Halifax and the coastal areas, it's really going to be, that track is going to be key, which, the difference of a few degrees at this time of year, is the difference between significant snow or a minimal snow to rain event, right?
Well, I guess the easiest way to describe it right now is that prepare for a messy day Wednesday, but
regardless,
what kind of precipitation that we're going to deal with? Could it be rain? Could it be snain, as I heard somebody call it before. That's that snow and rain or snow. It's still to be determined.
Yeah, it's still to be determined. With these systems, you can really identify them 5-7 days in advance. But, the more specific details in terms of precipitation types and then amounts often come into a greater focus, within kind of that 3 or 4 day window. So certainly, later this weekend, and definitely by the start of the week, but later this weekend, I think we'll really start to see solidification on the models and just exactly how this system will track. But certainly could be impactful, keeping a very close eye on it for sure.
Stay tuned to Allister's forecasts throughout today and then into Monday, and you'll get the very latest information on it. And this might be the first test, Allister.
Yes.
How's that for a segue? Of Environment Canada took the wraps off of a new way that they're going to identify weather events, and they're going to relay them to Canadians via color code this time around.
Yes, so this has been something that, I was not really aware of personally, but they've been introducing to some of their products elsewhere in the country, where they're producing kind of these weather outlooks based on confidence and impact. So I guess the key takeaways here are warnings are not going away. They're not changing, rainfall warnings, wind warnings, snowfall warnings, all the warnings that we have now still exist, but they're all going to be given a color classification, either yellow, orange, or red. And yellow is kind of the baseline. It's going to be the most common. And essentially these tiers are going to be based on forecaster impact, so Environment Canada forecasters, and how impactful the event will be. So a yellow level or a yellow watch or warning would signal, hazardous weather that may cause, damage or disruptions, but the impacts are generally more moderate, localized, and short term. So I think most of our warnings are likely going to be given that yellow classification. But then there's, the orange tier, which will be more severe weather, longer lasting weather systems that can have significant impacts, maybe like a longer lasting snow event, or maybe confidence is a bit lower in a system that's coming, like a hurricane that could be impactful. So, maybe an orange level hurricane watch.
Or a big snowstorm.
Or a big snowstorm, or a system that maybe has the potential to cause, significant flooding or significant wind damage might be given an orange level alert. And then red is kind of the top, and Environment Canada says it will be used in rare cases where very dangerous and possibly life-threatening weather is expected to cause extreme damage and disruptions. Impacts are extensive, generally widespread and prolonged. So they consider this rare. I think in this case, for us, we'll likely see those reserved to more, the hurricane warnings. Imminent and very impactful, tropical storm hurricane warnings. We don't often see tornado warnings in our region, but I would say a tornado warning would likely be given that. Or if we're having, say a significant long-lasting ice storm, perhaps that could be given. They referred to the 1998 ice storm in Ontario and Quebec that, say that system were around now, that would likely be given to that. But essentially, what Environment Canada is doing is they're taking their confidence in the event and the level of impact to designate these warnings and watches with a colored tiered system to help people understand how it will impact you, rather than focusing, I guess, specifically on how much of said weather, how said weather could impact you.
So I'm thinking thunderstorms.
Yes.
Right? Because they can be significant.
For sure.
Those would likely fit into that orange category.
I would say it will really depend on probably the type of what's happening in the thunderstorm. If it's just a heavy rainfall, maybe it would be given a yellow level. I don't know exactly what the criteria will be, but if we're looking at damaging winds and the potential for flash flooding and large hail that could be destructive, I think certainly there's that potential for an orange level designation on such alert. So really, it's what they're trying to convey with the warnings is just the level of impact expected from the weather event. And worth noting too that this wasn't announced with this recent change, but Environment Canada says they're working on a number of other things. And certainly I've heard, on social media that they're looking at introducing a polygon system for events like severe thunderstorms. Because right now, if a severe thunderstorm were to bubble up over Bedford, the whole metro would be put into a thunderstorm warning.
So breaking it down closer so you get a better idea where it is.
Exactly. They do this in the U.S. at the National Weather Service. It will be more accurate and more community-based rather than, especially in Nova Scotia, the counties they're so large. If you have a system moving over, say, Halifax and you're in Porter's Lake and you get that alert and it's not going to affect you, or there's various scenarios for that, but they're certainly making a lot of changes to how they communicate weather watches and warnings, and also how they communicate their forecast. Sounds like they're going to be changing just how much information they deliver in their forecast too.
Alistair will keep an eye on that for us, and we'll bring us up to date perhaps next week with more information. Alistair, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And we'll blame all of the flurries on you.
I'll take it.
Alister Aalders, our weather specialist. You can hear his forecasts weekdays, Monday through Friday, in the morning and in the afternoon, and of course here every Friday. We're going to stop and take another break, our last break of the Friday edition, and when we come back, Thanksgiving in the United States is a football fan's paradise. I'm sure he's watching the games today. I know he watched them yesterday. Our sports guru, Cecil, after the break. All right, welcome back. We're almost done here on the Friday, but of course we can't end a work week without having a conversation with our next guest, and that is our sports guru, and that is Cecil Wright. Cecil, how are you?
What's going on?
Well, 10 minutes to go before first rock at the curling trials. Go Black, go!
Yeah, that's right, man. I love watching curling.
Isn't it fun? And having that local connection just makes it that much more fun, right?
Well, absolutely. And speaking of local connection, there's a young curler from Nova Scotia who also plays in the Nova Scotia Senior Baseball League named Ryan Abraham, whom I'm sure you've seen on several occasions.
Sure.
He's going to be the next up-and-comer from Nova Scotia. You watch.
There you go. You heard it here first, right, Cecil?
That's right.
As I said before the break, sir, this is Thanksgiving week in the United States. It's Black Friday today, and that means that there's more football. We watched 3 games yesterday. Quite entertaining, to be quite honest, with the exception of the third game.
Yeah, and I lost on all 3. All my selections, my card for this week is already blown as of yesterday. Unbelievable. What a game, though. Was it Green Bay and Dallas?
Yes. That was the first game. We were watching it here. We were flipping back and forth between that and the curling. And everybody was kind of expecting Detroit to win because it is Thanksgiving. But, oh, my goodness, here come the Packers.
Here come the Packers, and here come the Cowboys. It was the Cowboys in Kansas City. That was the other game that I was kind of surprised at. Go Dallas, apparently.
Right, and there's a big discussion now that Mr. Prescott could be in the running for the MVP this year, along with that fella in New England.
Well, in order for Mr. Prescott to win it, they're going to have to go on a little streak of undefeatedness, which I just can't see happening. Although you never know. I mean, just based on the last game yesterday, I thought Baltimore was going to kill Cincinnati, and Joe Burrow comes back and takes some time to get all the gears oiled up. But when he did, man, he played very well.
Yeah, you were pretty high on Baltimore when they got back healthy again, and you're right. Watching the Bengals and the Ravens last night, I thought, well, this is Burrow's first game back, rust, all of that stuff. How good is that toe? He had that turf toe injury, and but holy smokes, they managed to hang 32 points on Baltimore's defense.
They did, and Baltimore's defense supposedly is one of the best in the league.
Right.
So you can't tell me you can't explain anything to me. Nothing makes sense.
Fair enough. The football fun and frivolity continues today. Cecil, we got a game. I think it's at 4:00. It's the Eagles, who got stung in Dallas last week, taking on the Chicago Bears, who have been a bit of a surprise this season.
Yeah. Caleb Williams, their quarterback, who I never really thought was going to amount to anything, is just like Drake May, is doing for the Patriots, Williams is doing that for the Bears. They're leading that division.
Right.
Probably for the first time in about 25 years, for crying out loud.
Yeah, the Chicago Bears, I think, are for real, and the Philadelphia Eagles, after that loss, blew a 21-point lead last week, and there's been some writing and some speculation that may all not be well in that locker room, with some people taking a look at that quarterback position and looking at Jalen Hurts and saying that maybe he's not on the same page that everybody else is on.
I don't understand how anybody can blame Jalen Hurts. I mean, the guy's he already won a Super Bowl. What's he need to be, the MVP or something like that?
Right.
He's got a great running back. He's got a solid offensive line. If their defense does their job, I think they definitely win last week, but they didn't. But it seems like he takes the blame for everything. I'll take Jalen Hurts on my team any day of the week.
Maybe not the Patriots though, because Drake's pretty good, eh?
Well, I wouldn't take him instead of Drake, but I mean, if I needed a quarterback and he was available, swept up in a second.
Cecil, you got to wait till Monday to see Drake May and the Patriots take the field, and when the schedule makers put this one together, I didn't think that they would be thinking a Monday Night Football game featuring New England and the Giants would be a boring fest, but I think it will be.
Especially since the Patriots' left side of the offensive line is going to be backups.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just hoping that Drake May doesn't get hurt as a result of having guys who are less than what you would like to see, playing at those key positions. The left tackle position is the position that would have Drake May's back. I mean, I have visions of him getting broken into two because the left tackle isn't good enough to stop whoever it is that's rushing from that side.
The blind side, the infamous blind side, right?
Michael Orr.
You got her. Cecil, enjoy the games this weekend, sir. Appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, we'll probably talk about Dylan Cease next week.
Okay. Fair enough.
You know who that is?
No.
You know who that is, don't you?
No.
He's the newest Toronto Blue Jay pitcher.
Oh, yeah. What am I thinking about? Wow, they added a $200 million contract too, right? Holy smokes.
Which means I don't think they're going to sign Bichette.
Oh, well, we'll have to dig into that next week. Cecil, appreciate it, sir.
That's right. Have a good one.
All right, man. That is Cecil Wright, our sports guru, to wrap up the week. That's going to about do it, folks. I'm so glad that you were able to spend time with us this week and join the conversation. Thank you to all of our guests, including Cecil, that spend some of their time with us and impart their knowledge upon us. Without them, the show would be pretty boring. And a big thank you to all of you that dial the numbers and join the conversation in the open hours. I truly, truly appreciate it. I truly appreciate all the emails I get. I read them all. I might not respond to them all, but I read them all. And I'm very glad that you're able to do that. Thank you to Vanessa Vandenez on the other side of the glass. Outstanding work as always. I tell everybody that comes in here that if she wasn't here, I don't know what would happen. Okay, everybody, get out there and enjoy Nova Scotia. We're so lucky to live where we do. People pay thousands of dollars to come here, and we can go out and enjoy it each and every day. I hope you do that. Until Monday, everybody, be well and be kind to one another.